The drive from Oslo to my late grandmother's cabin was long, and I was ready for the solitude it offered and a chance to rest for a while. The cabin sits nestled in the woods like a forgotten relic. Its paint was peeling and moss crept up the stone foundation. I kill the engine and step out of the car and look around. The air smells damp, mingling with the faint ting of pine. I had only visited the cabin a few times as a child, and now that Grandma has passed, she left it to me in an inheritance that was unexpected. The cabin's door groans as I push it open and look inside. Dust danced in the sunlight filtering through the lace curtains, yellowed with age. The air was stale, and the faint scent of lavender lingers, a reminder of Grandma's presence. I look over to the corner where a large armoire that I don't remember stands, imposing and out of place among the rest of the cabin's cozy charm. Its creepy ornate carvings of serpentine creatures are in hard contrast to the rest of the room. "Guess you picked up a taste for antiques, huh, Momol?" I whisper as I touch the cool surface. A framed picture catches my attention. In it, my grandmother stands next to a young man I don't recognize, with a wide smile and dark, mischievous eyes. He wore suspenders over a plain shirt and holds a fishing rod. There is no name or date on it, just a faint stain in the lower corner. The longer I look at him, it seems that his expression changes, going from a happy smile to something more sinister. A chill runs down my spine as I quickly put it back, face down. Trying to shake the unease, I light the fireplace and sit down to sip some tea that I made to calm my nerves. I freeze as a soft knock echoes through the cabin. I stare at the door as the knock comes again, louder this time. It was too late for visitors, and I didn't see neighbors for miles. So who could it be? My heart rate picks up as I walk towards the door and open it. No one was there. The only sound was the rustling of the wind through the trees. I step outside and scan the front yard. That's when I notice footsteps in the dirt, leading away from the porch and vanishing into the woods. They are unmistakably fresh and certainly not mine. I lock the door and lean against it, listening to my surroundings. The cabin's silence seems to amplify the ticking of the grandfather clock next to the fireplace. I take a deep breath. Probably just some lost hiker, I whisper to myself. But deep down, instincts told me otherwise. The fire had dimmed and now cast long shadows around the room. I look towards the armoire in the corner, and I feel an inexplicable draw to it. As I step closer, the temp in the room drops sharply. I can see my breath come out in visible clouds as a faint whisper echoes around me. "Anna." The voice is low, and it sends a bolt of fear through me. I spin around, but the room is empty. "Anna." The voice comes again, louder than before, accompanied by a sudden crash from the kitchen. I let out a small yelp before slowly walking closer. The cabinet doors were open and dishes lay broken on the floor. The voice comes once more, closer now, almost inside my head. I turn back into the living room and my eyes land on the armoire as the doors slowly creak open. "Anna." This time, the voice comes from inside the armoire. My legs feel like lead as I step closer even more, but then a shape begins to emerge from the darkness within. It is humanoid, but impossibly skinny, its translucent skin stretched tightly over sharp bones. Its hollow eyes glow faintly, and its mouth is twisted into a grotesque smile. My heel catches the rug as I stumble back. I fall, but scramble to push myself away as the creature steps out of the armoire, moving slowly and deliberate. "You should not be here," it hisses with a guttural rasp. I try to scream, but no sound comes out. The creature tilts its head, then raises a skeletal hand, pointing a finger at my chest, where I feel a searing pain. Why are you here?" I choke out. The creature doesn't answer, but its form begins to shimmer, and suddenly I am transported to a small, dimly lit room. A young man kneels in the center of the room, his face angry. Before him stands the man from the picture I saw earlier, yelling at him. "You'll regret crossing me," he snarls, before kicking him in the chest. Before I can yell out, the scene shifts like smoke dissipating, and I am back in the cabin with the creature standing over me. "This is your bloodline sin," it hisses, "and the debt must be paid." I black out as the creature reaches for me. I wake up with a pounding headache in front of the armoire. Its doors are closed and nothing is out of place. The room is cold since the fire died out completely, and the faint morning light filters through the curtains. For just a minute, I thought it was just a nightmare, but the dull pain in my chest where the creature touched said otherwise. I pull my sweater down to look and see an angry red mark almost seared into my skin. I stumble into the kitchen and splash cold water on my face, getting startled by my reflection in the small mirror above the sink. "This is your bloodline sin," the creature's words replay in my head. What did it mean by that? I think to myself. I need answers. I need to know why this is happening. After making a strong cup of coffee, I began to look through the cabin for anything that could shed some light to what the creature meant. My grandmother had been a meticulous record keeper, and if there were answers to be found, then that be it. I looked through a chest that was under the front window. Inside, I find a stack of journals bound by leather bounds, the smell of mildew making me sneeze as I pull them out. I flip through them and see Grandma's neat handwriting on every page. Most of the entries were mundane, but as I work my way toward the bottom of the stack, the tone begins to shift, with one entry catching my eye. Date 1964. I fear the whispers in the woods are growing louder. Mother says it's nothing, just the wind, but I saw something tonight, a figure standing by the tree line, watching the cabin. It didn't move, even when I shouted. When I told Father, he grew pale and said not to speak of it again. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Was this the same entity I'd seen? Further entries hinted at strange occurrences, like scratches on the walls, shadows moving where there shouldn't have been any, and Grandma's growing paranoia. But then, in a journal from 1971, I found something that made my blood run cold. The journal read, "Father confessed today. He admitted that the land this cabin stands on was taken from a man named Lars Ove in the most shameful way. Grandfather and his brothers lied and cheated to drive him from his home, leaving him penniless. Father says Lars cursed them, swearing vengeance. I don't know if I believe it, but I can feel that something is wrong here." The journal details how Lars Ove had supposedly been found dead in the woods not long after being forced out. He'd hung himself from a tree, but not before carving the word Gjenganger into the bark with a knife. I didn't need to look up the word, as I already knew what it meant. A Gjenganger is a vengeful spirit, cursed to walk the earth and punish the living for wrongs done to them. My mind raced as I set the journal down. The creature last night wasn't just a random haunting. It was Lars Ove, and he was still seeking retribution. But why now? Why, after decades of silence, was he appearing again? My thoughts are interrupted by a soft creak behind me. I turned quickly, but the room is empty. The armoire stands in its corner, the carvings on the surface seeming to come to life in the morning light. I take a shaky breath, as now I have a name and a history. But I also have more questions than answers. But nothing gave me a clear answer on how to appease a spirit like Lars Ove. Every small sound I heard would have me jumping out of my skin. Eventually, I found a small book tucked away at the bottom of the chest. Its title, written in Norwegian, translated to "The Dead Do Not Rest, Old Rites and Remedies." Inside, I find a small section on Gjenganger's that read, "The Gjenganger seeks justice for a betrayal. To lay the spirit to rest, one must make amends for the sins committed, offering restitution or fulfilling a dying wish left ungranted. But beware, the Gjenganger is drawn to fear and guilt. They are relentless and dangerous, and failure to appease them often results in death." My stomach sinks as I don't know Lars' dying wish. Will all this go away if I give back the land? Will that work, or just make things worse? The cabin felt alive with tension as night falls. I light a fire and watch the flickering flames do little to chase away the oppressive darkness pressing against the windows. I keep looking through the book and journals on the off chance that I missed something, but nothing so far. The first sign of trouble comes as a faint tapping on the window. I freeze as the hair on the back of my neck stands. I'm in the middle of nowhere. There shouldn't be anyone outside, I think to myself. Tap, tap, tap. I slowly turn my head to look, but I can just make out the faint outline of a hand pressed against it. Fingers spread wide. It slides slowly down the pane, leaving streaks behind. I shoot up, the chair scraping loud behind me. Who's there? I call out. No answer. I grab a flashlight and move slowly toward the window, but when I shine the light out, there's nothing but darkness. The handprint, however, stayed on the glass. From then on, I couldn't focus. The room feels colder now, and the fire sputters as if struggling for air. The light starts flickering as I hear a low whisper come from behind me. You cannot undo what has been done. I whip around, but no one is there. The whisper then turns into a chuckle, and my chest tightens. I grab my cross pendant that Grandma gave me years ago, as if that would make the voice go away. The lights and the fire go out completely, plunging the cabin into complete darkness. I fumble for the flashlight that fell from my hand when I first heard the whisper and shine it on the armoire. The doors were open. I haven't gone near it since the first night. I take slow steps as I approach it. The inside is empty, just as it had been before, but the carved symbols on the doors seem to move and twist in the flashlight beam. As I stand there, the whispers start again, this time spoken in a language I can't understand. I slam the door shut, the sound echoing throughout the cabin. Stop, I'm trying to help. Just tell me what you want, I yell out, and nothing in particular. The whispers stop, and for a moment the cabin is deathly silent. Then, in the ashes of the fire, letters begin to form, drawn by an unseen hand, spelling out the word, land. The land. He wants the land he was cheated out of. Maybe that's all I have to do to stop this, is give him back his land. My thoughts are interrupted by a loud crash from the kitchen. I run in there and shine the light by the sink. The cabinet is open, and a bag of flour is now laying on the counter. In it, the word pay is written out. I spent the next few hours combing every inch of the internet, looking for information about the land, Lars, and everything in between. The land had belonged to Lars Olf's family for generations. Olaf had taken the land in a deal, according to the papers. Lars Olf had willingly signed it over, but I knew that wasn't true. The stories in my family hinted at something darker. Lars had been pressured, bullied, or worse. The land had been stolen from him, and his spirit wasn't going to rest until it was returned. As night falls, the air in the cabin grows heavy, and the fire I lit refuses to burn higher than a weak smolder. I try to focus on drafting a letter to the municipality to formally transfer the property back into Lars Olf's name, but my thoughts are interrupted by 3 sharp taps at the front door. I freeze as the knocking comes again. I slowly approach the door, peering through the small frosted window. No one is there. I back away slowly, my hand still holding the doorknob. The knocking stops, now replaced by the sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, circling the cabin. A voice whispers, "Too late." The lights flicker violently before plunging the cabin into darkness. Again, I fumble for my flashlight. "I'm doing what you want," I yell out. "I'm giving it back. Isn't that enough?" I drop the flashlight as the cabin shakes violently. Dishes shatter and books fall from the shelves. The whispering grows louder, overlapping voices screaming accusations I can't fully understand. I cover my ears, tears streaming down my face. "What do you want from me?" I scream. The whispers stop abruptly. In the suffocating silence that follows, a single word echoes through the room, shaking the very walls. Everything. By the time morning arrives, I have made my decision. I drive into town and fill out the necessary paperwork and speak to the local registrar. By the end of the afternoon, I had formally transferred the deed back into Lars' name. It should have felt like a weight had lifted, but as I drive back to the cabin, a deep unease settles over me. The trees lining the road seem to stretch taller, their branches gnarled like claws reaching toward my car. The air grows colder the closer I get, and when I finally pull up to the cabin, it looks wrong. The windows are dark, the front door slightly open. Inside, The smell of decay hits me like a wall. I call out, "It's done. I gave the land back to you." The cabin groans. The walls seem to bow inward slightly. The air crackles with tension, and I feel a sharp pain in my chest. The voice comes again, surrounding me. "It will never be enough," it says. I run, leaving everything behind, and drive home, desperate to escape whatever darkness clung to my family's past. I tell myself it's over. I'd done what the spirit had asked. But later that night, as I lay in bed, the familiar whisper begins again. "Too late," it whispers. My bedroom door creaks open, and the air grows cold. I sit up, trembling, as a dark figure looms in the doorway, a figure with hollow eyes and a twisted grin. The ghost of Lars had followed me, and I knew then that this would never end.